Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just dive on in, man. That's kind of how we do here. I don't know what the best starting point is, but officially, welcome to Axie Tuesdays. Thank you, Baronar. Our little pre-show we did, just mention. It's pretty cool to be able to trade podcasts a little bit. You interview me, I interview you. I think we've touched on some of these things. I'll have to do one of these with Enjoy, just for the sake of keeping things balanced. I know he's got a lot of interesting stuff to say as well, but I'm really glad you could join me last minute as well. I always, even though it's Axie Tuesdays, it's in the freaking name. Every Monday I go, oh shit, I got to think about Axie Tuesdays this week. So thank you for that as well.
Yeah, dude, I'm the same way. It's interesting. Do my best to have everything all prepared. We prepare all week, but really Tuesday is when the real magic happens, I guess. When we're actually putting the salad together or whatever the sayings are.
I mean, you inspired Axie Tuesdays. The original idea, I don't know if I told you this or not, but it was European viewers complaining, air quotes, about Axie Chat being on too late so they could never watch it live. And I thought, oh, well, I'm around during the day. All things equal, Tuesdays are fine. If I can hype up Axie Chat, and then I saw the initiative where you guys were doing the little streamer stack on either side of it. So I figured, well, maybe I could start the hype earlier in the day, maybe hit some of that European audience, maybe some of the Filipinos that haven't gone to bed yet or staying up late. And, we turn Tuesday into 24/7 Axie Day at some point.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I know Enjoy and I have talked about this before. We'd love to have just 24-hour Axie all the time. So we love seeing all the streamers out there, and everybody has their different take. And I love that. I just want more voices, more interaction, more stuff happening in the Axie space. So I absolutely love it. All I do is support more and more. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Well, we're seeing more podcasts now too. I know Doug spun one up. Dave is doing another one. Oh gosh, there's another that I'm forgetting.
Mike's doing good.
Yeah,
there's tons, but
it's more and more, and a lot of them are getting traction. And maybe that's like a first good pit stop for this conversation, because one of the first things I marveled at when I dove into the Axie community, my first month or so of being part of the Sky Mavis team, again, air quotes, I was still finishing the last DPC broadcasting sprint for Dota 2. So they kind of brought me on like, hey, that's totally cool. We knew this was your schedule. That's fine. Do as much as you can. At the end of the first month, let us know what percentage of your workload you were able to do, compared to normal. And that'll be your first month. And that was basically spent just learning. And I dove into your podcast, and I couldn't believe the amount of support from the quarterly and founders passes, and I don't know how many subscribers you have, but what seemed like just seeing how many were coming in during the live shows, how much financial support you had through Twitch relative to the size of your channel, the number of viewers you guys are averaging per podcast, and just your general like influencer experience, right? You're just a NFT Axie guy. You don't have some huge social media backing. So no. I've been podcasting forever, and maybe I've been doing something wrong. Maybe Dota is just not the market for podcasts, period. But damn, dog. I mean, you guys,
thanks.
You have some. You might be a little spoiled. You guys do very well. You made more off of one quarterly pass sale podcasting than I've made from just purely podcasting, I think, in my entire career. For real. I have struggled so hard to monetize that shit. It's hats off to you, for real.
Thanks. Well, so today is actually, we're celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Axie Chat, which is pretty incredible. Enjoy and I, we almost did it. We were almost just talking to ourselves. So, we're really excited about the audience that we have, the subscribers, followers, everybody who likes Axie Chat and supports Axie Chat. Thank you so much. We're very, very grateful for it. And, this NFT space is just amazing. It's really, really neat. We came up with an idea of having membership passes, which allow people to have kind of a greater experience. I know that that's pretty important just in general. People really like those value added experiences. I know I do. I really like it when I can pay to get a special experience, backstage pass or whatever. I like that a lot. And so we thought of how could we do this and how could we do it with the blockchain technology. And yeah, we came up with the founders passes and the quarterly passes. And yeah, again, just thanks so much for the support. We're passionate about it. We love it. We love Axie Infinity. It's a world-changing universe. And yeah, it's been so neat. And I'm excited to see the stuff you're up to, Zyori. I've been paying really close attention to the esports space. T-Pen and I did an Axie bash that was supported by many, many people a while ago. And we just had a great time doing that. The hardcore esports guys are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just really, really great to work with. And, you know, there's some real competitors there too.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's
but
funny.
The resilience is what I've come to appreciate, both on your side as like a content creator, because you've told me, and I know as a podcaster, the hardest part is coming back every week when there's nothing to talk about. And some weeks there's genuinely nothing has happened. I mean, that's happened to me in the Dota space where it's like, patch is stale. There's no tournaments because there's a break here. Everyone's on vacation. What are we talking about? All right, anything fun happen in your world? It's hard, and that's where you have to push through. And that's the kind of like bear market mentality that really builds the strong bonds. And I guess I should also highlight that what you guys do with your founders and quarterly passes is not. It's not just like a donation for watching the podcast. There are deliverables attached to it. Like there's additional content and what do you call? Is it the after chat or whatever it is? The founders chat. I've sat in at least once or twice, and it's very
it's awesome.
Well. It's awesome, but you can. I was gonna say it's very like. I'm trying to think of like the most complimentary word. It's clear that you put a lot of time into it. It's not just like hey, Baronar is here, ask me some questions. It's like a proper presentation with like legit information. Like I walked away with a couple notes like, holy shit, that was like a college lecture on Axie legit. Like if you
Thanks.
That's really what it felt like. Axie University on like a senior level. You know, that was like a 200 a pre-master's course or something. So I think the value is there. But I didn't so again, more than donations, but hats off to you guys for figuring that out and doing it scalably, right? I think that's the hardest part because it's time consuming.
Oh, massively. So, you know, we call it the exclusive episode, kind of the exclusive chat after. And maybe we better come up with a better name for it. It's kind of like the members only side. But yeah, we put at least as much time into that as we put into the main public stream as well. But it's just different. The focus is on economics. The focus is on, you know, we try our best to kind of look at what's there and maybe give some ideas of what we maybe think is to come. Of course, that's still just kind of speculation, but it's definitely well-educated speculation. We get into that a little bit more than on the public stream for sure. We really like it. It's turned out to just be a great way of doing things. I think it's pretty new when you have people like what is he called, Gary V, and some of the bigger crypto people kind of copying the model that you came up with. It makes you feel kind of like, hey, maybe we came up with something cool.
It is the highest form of flattery, right? Isn't that how it works?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I really enjoy doing the Axie Chat. Obviously, we're super passionate about it. It's neat when things that you're passionate about line up to also be lucrative. You know, I love your passion about esports, and I'm sure that that's going to turn out awesome. I love what we're seeing from the esports announcement. You know, you announced on Discord, and there was a great set of materials that I read through, and actually like a schedule and stuff. Awesome.
Well, I appreciate that. It's getting there. It's so much data to crunch, and man, it's everything just moves so fast. And I feel like to even talk about this, I have to give the context of, you know, we're trying to hire aggressively. So all of us at, you know, the level I'm at and higher within Sky Mavis have kind of been instructed, hey, if you know people in the industry, you know, anyone who you think would be good, let's start to see if they'd be interested. And if they are, let's start to run them through the process, because qualified leads are always a little more efficient whatever. So as part of that, I've been chatting with some people, and I went back and looked at my offer letter and just some of the initial goals and parameters and things that were scoped out in there. And a good chunk of it is still pretty accurate, but there were certain things of, we were really concerned about the growth. And part of my job was to join, I'm technically on the growth team, and it was, how do we onboard new creators? How do we get people interested in Axie? What can we do to motivate like popular streamers to want to play? It's like, oh, okay, I'll start to model that out. Before the modeling's even done, it's like, hey, we have so much inbound that it's almost beyond one person's scope to handle in terms of requests to just be a creator, or like, hey, do you guys give out free Axies? Hey, do you guys have a referral program? Like, there's a lot of requests that just get lost on Twitter because I'm asleep when they come through, or they're just, there's so much volume. It's hard to sift all of it through. So it's a little bit of a cat and mouse trying to get to know everybody, but we're onboarding more creators faster than I can like have one-on-ones with new creators. And that's a great thing to have. It's just kind of funny to think one of my core missions was figure out that model, because we're a little concerned about the growth speed. And then boom, the magic happens, and now I'm kind of sitting here. Same with esports. So originally, I guess maybe I can say this confidently now that the schedule's out, I can reveal a little pinch behind the curtains. I had originally thought, well, okay, things are going to be a little slow this year as we ramp up and have product releases. What if we tried to do one big Axie tournament for like December, kind of like an Axie Winter Brawl? I think that was my internal workshop name. And okay, cool. I think we were framing at the time like $100,000 prize pool. Like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's no problem. That sounds great. And we're looking at some sort of regional open qualifier kind of thing, and just like a mini format for what we would want the basis of a league to be in the future. And as I start modeling that out, we start getting some phone calls from sponsors that are like, hey, we'd really love to throw money at Axie Esports. And in my mind, I'm like, whoa, okay, I didn't. Usually the ad sales is the hard part on my side of the esports coin. If we want to do an event, there's like a 6 to 12 month sales cycle that has to happen in advance you're talking about like a $500,000 budget. It takes time to close a $150,000 title sponsor or something like that. In this case, apparently Axie's growth has trickled into the corporate business world as well, the advertising side. There's a lot of excitement there. So that's really cool. So again, we start seeing all this inbound, and then the sudden change, we had to take down the challenge server because of the scaling issues. Based on the original parameters of how are we going to get all these users, no faith in Zyori's creator program, I guess. We weren't worried about refactoring code. All of a sudden, we hit a million daily active users, and the whole freaking server breaks. Like, we got to shut down everything that isn't mission critical. So it's just battling. It's like, oh no, now we can't do esports. And what do we do? And then so I had to lobby a little bit for we need to spin up a private server. I think like, even if it's not perfect, even if we can't accommodate everything, we have to accommodate something, because there's so much hype around this. There's so many people trying so hard. We have to do something. And luckily, management agreed, let's say. We were able to make that happen. And here we are. So seeing the demand, we were able to greenlight, 31 proposals. The server capacity is a little bit bigger than we anticipated. So cool. Because the server upgrades went a little bit faster than anticipated, believe it or not. It takes time to build that stuff. It's actually harder than people think. So we've expanded the scope, and now that $100,000 tournament is like, shit, dude, we got 30 tournaments. December's like filling up quick, and we got room to add more tournaments if we can let content creators and streamers run their own community events, even if they're not supported by some of that extra AXS. That's fine as well. Not to mention AXS is blown up so much that $100,000 single tournament, right now we got like $400,000 in this esports grant. So things change so fast that the time it takes just to model out something like this, crunch all the data, and build a schedule, it's already 4x the scope of the biggest thing I pitched 3 months ago that I got greenlit.
That's awesome.
So it's awesome. It's so cool, and it's like great problems to have. But I say all that just so hopefully people can keep into context that it's like a really fast-moving target that we're trying to hit. So I'm trying to keep up as best I can. I feel so bad for the runner-up proposals that were so good, but it's just something has to give. I can't greenlight all of them out of the gate, but I'm really excited to add more. And Yeah, we now we need to figure out how to curate all this data. You know, these events will announce and get their stuff out there. We're going to support that through the social media, of course. But I think developing some kind of like esports content hub, you know, like esports.axieinfinity.com or something, is probably going to be a worthy use of development time in the pretty near future. You know, I mean,
that sounds awesome.
Well, what, you know, it's 10 events is like, oh yeah, sure, we'll just throw it into a calendar. 30 events is like, I just got a message from the boss that's like, you know, this is kind of hard to digest. This is a lot of information. And in my head, I'm like, I want to green light 30 more before the end of the year. It's like, all right, I don't even know where all the qualifier pages are anymore. Again, good problems to have, but data is beautiful, Baronar. Sorry, I'll let you talk a little bit now.
No,
but that's
dude,
that's the backstory
totally cool.
on the esports grant there.
I'm a huge proponent of the esports. Esports has driven a lot of the interest over time, for sure. You know, we've had some just great casters. We've had some great events. We've had a lot of really exciting things happen on the esports side. And, you know, what's so incredible to me is how well designed it was kind of out of the gates. I've done so many different games. I've been involved in so many different types of games. But one of the things I really liked was League of Legends for a while. And we thought about doing some private. I've done some various different types of tournaments, like real life stuff. And one of the things that I did I was competitive for a while in competitive bass fishing. Maybe I told you that. I can't remember.
You might have, but maybe not. That sounds surprising. So is that like biggest fish? Is that like how does that?
Yeah, that type of stuff.
Okay. So from a competitive perspective, is that a volume that you're going for to try to get the biggest one?
Right. So usually it's a 5 fish limit. If you ever watch like the Bassmaster Classic on TV or something like that, it's just,
you know, it's been a couple decades since I through. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's just a local format to do it, but it's interesting because you have to think in terms of your pool of fishermen, how to do those payouts, how to handle pay-ins, all that sort of stuff. And so I had done some of those. I'd run some of those types of tournaments, and so I guess my head pretty easily wraps around that type of stuff. I do some bowling too. They have some things like that in bowling as well. So I was thinking, man, it would be really cool to do some League of Legends tournaments that way. I had gotten kind of early into crypto. I thought it would be super cool just because of the alliteration to do like a Litecoin League of Legends style of tournament.
I like that.
Yeah, and you know, we just couldn't get it all together in the sense of the platform for trying to hold tournaments and stuff inside of League of Legends was not ideal, and it really held us back. So being able to basically right out of the gates have a method in which you can pretty easily do matchups, pretty easily have kind of an esports scene, do brackets and stuff like that, even though some of it's manual.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to some of it being more automated. But it still was, you know, out of the gates.
For an alpha, it's pretty good. Yeah. A lot of alphas don't have a lobby system like that. So you can tell that the folks that designed Axies definitely had that in mind, at least as an option. And even just as a basic, it's really fun to be able to play against your friends. Like the coaching session I did with Elijah, we didn't realize the challenge server was down when we did the show. And it would have been a lot more fun to be able to like, I didn't know what gravel ant was, and he was explaining it, and I didn't understand why it was so broken. And he said, "Play me right now, and I'll show you." And we couldn't, and that would have been like a really powerful demonstration. I was a little slow on the uptake on old grav ant there. I'm definitely with it now, but geez, what a card.
Well, I mean, it depends a lot, right? If you do have a ranged attack, gravel ant's kind of not that great of a move.
I guess people have gotten so comfy with the aqua backliner, and that's where it feels really just
if you're not running like Ranchu or something, some melee attack, you're in big trouble with gravel ant. Believe me, I run a reptile backliner most of the time, almost always all melee, because I like that type of meta, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
And gravel ant's just every time I get them, like, I'm like, if I don't kill this thing before I get into a 1v1, I'm just going to get so salty. I don't know. There are some things with Alpha that I'm looking forward to with Axie Origin. I think that some things will be handled a little bit better maybe.
Yeah.
I've complained with Indus and others about Gravelant before, but I understand their point as to why they don't think it's completely OP.
I
My
generally
biggest
agree.
issue is
I don't think it's broken. It's just it's the Dota factor. Like that's exactly how Dota is. Some heroes have hard counters, but there's no hero who's just hard countered by everyone. He hard counters somebody else. So yeah, in that 1v1, it's terrible. You just, like the old Kunkka versus Brood. He just does AoE damage and all your little babies die and you can't do anything. It's just that mechanic destroys you, but you destroy every other hero that can't do any AoE damage. Gravelant's exactly like that. It hard counters some things and does absolutely nothing against other things. It's a very harsh card.
Yeah, my biggest issue with it is that it's completely disabling of a type. So I feel like, even fear stops you from playing two things, but not everything. Mm-hmm. And, it does feel... It feels like, so take the ranged attack disables, right? They're a little bit different. Like, they can. I don't know. I can get going on this stuff. I don't know if that's what we want to talk about for sure or not. But
no, fair enough. I mean, it happens, right? And I'm always glad that these little tunnels in the conversation form because it shows that there's a lot of strategy in that. It's easy to get sucked into the depth of Axie. At the top layer, it just seems like, oh, it's just Pokemon. But once you start playing it, you realize, oh my gosh, it's so much more, and it's actually. I don't where exactly you draw the line of what's an esport and what isn't. I don't know. I kind of don't care. I know that the game is deep enough that I have talked to several professional gamers that have played MOBAs, first-person shooters, other card games like Dota Underlord, Auto Battler strategy games, Warcraft 3 RTS games at very, very high semi-pro competitive levels, and most of them, all things equal, if they've bought Axies and gotten over the I'm afraid to invest $1,000, they have opened up Pandora's box and they are super excited. 1437, that the Dota pro and coach Theban, he's got like 40K Twitter followers. He's been streaming on Twitch. I think he's top. I don't remember if he sent me a screenshot. Was it top 1,000, top 200? He's climbing. He's slaying it on the leaderboards. He's ready. Like, he DM'd me today, like, bro, hook me up with some of these TOs. I got to get in some of these tournaments. He's hungry. And look out, dude. He's coming. So the fact that people like that dude's not faking it, right? Like, he has every option in the world. He can play any game. He's got a platform. The dude played at the International 1 10 years ago. All right. He's freaking credentialed. Okay. He doesn't need us. We don't need him. But the fact that he's in on what we're doing, to me, that's beautiful. That's it right there. That's your data point.
No, I totally agree with that. I mean, I think there's some people that, and it really kind of pisses me off, that talk about Axies being just like this basic or this simple kind of game, and that is absolutely untrue. You can get on and you can just play it and you'll be garbage at it. I mean, you can even have the best team, and if you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to be able to win consistently. And to me, that's a mark of a great game, right? That's something that's really awesome. So I do kind of hope, even when we move into Axie Origin, that in some way what we have right now, this Alpha Battles game, can continue to exist in some format. I think there are a few things balance-wise that could be worked on, but I mean, it's been tweaked and tweaked and tweaked and tweaked, which is cool.
Yeah,
I think that it is almost it's almost better as like a tournament game. Where the one thing I've always said about that is if you really wanted to turn it into just a full-on tournament competition game, that you really would have to be able to design or pick the Axie parts going in to have a really good experience, in my opinion.
Right. It needs a deck building element where you can somehow get closer to that customization you want without just opening up the wallet. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And that would make sense to me. Like, so then you're picking Gravelant because you've seen the person you're competing against in a tournament has taken mostly melee cards, and so you're taking a risk to do that.
It's like WoW Arena private servers. You go to the vendor and you can buy literally any item in the game. That's what normalizes it. It's not about like raid groups or whatever else. Yeah, I hear you on that one. Yeah,
I think Guild Wars was like that. I played Guild Wars for a little while.
Yes, I think so. It's
in the
normalized.
PvP side, you were automatically highest level and basically had any equipment. So it truly was kind of fair, equal footing that way. But again, I'm not saying anything negative about the current battle system. I think it's pretty amazing. I think it's deeper than anybody realizes.
I think you're right,
it's
though, about
so
that
fun.
framing with the tournament mode.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be. They might be able to live in parallel. Like the idea is the Axie universe. If you think about sort of in your head the idea of the Axie universe and the land is kind of like the foundation of these digital bounds. If your Axies are just hanging out in the world, they can kind of go to different places and have different experiences. So maybe you go over here and it's like, you go to a medieval tournament, there's jousting and sword fighting. That's cool. They're still both competitive. They're both part of the tournament, but they're totally different activities. Maybe there's a third type of battle that somebody builds with the SDK that's like so good that it starts to have a little esports scene. I don't know that, like, maybe the framing was wrong way back when with these mutually exclusive, like, this is the battle mode.
Right.
Maybe there's multiple battle modes because they have different value props.
I like that. I like there being multiple mini games. I like that that there's a plan for having different experiences. The materials specifically even talk about that, in terms of upgrading Axies and having different types of mini games that will be available to people to experience Axie Infinity. To me, all of that just is awesome. I like more options, more experiences. I like diversity, so that gets me excited. So I have my sons that are involved with Axie as well. But, one thing, and I've said this before, one thing I would really like to see, and I'm crossing my fingers that it's still kind of coming or maybe on the way, and that would be a really neat tower defense mini game that was based on Axie. Because I think there's a big, huge demand for that tower defense kind of experience. It's fun, it's enjoyable, it's interactive, and I could see that being a huge mini game.
I could see it in 15 months.
Ooh, I like it.
Is that's
sooner than I had?
Okay,
so let's get
that was my most optimistic estimate. So maybe let's say 20 months, perhaps more realistically. But yeah, I think that range, 15 to 20 months for some sort of Axie tower defense. Maybe it's rudimentary. Maybe it's third-party made. Maybe it's like hey, we think this would be cool, and that motivates somebody to make it. But yeah, that's pretty classic, dude. When you talk about, like, we always compare the SDK to the Warcraft 3 map editor. It's like Footman Frenzy, Uther Party, and tower defenses just in general. Those were like my big three. And I know there's a lot of other custom games. Everyone's going to blow up chat with their favorites. But to me, those were like the universal big three. And then Dota. Obviously, Dota is like kind of number 4. But going to be a while before we see the Axie MOBA, I think. I don't know how that one's going to work. But hey, we can dream. 10 years from now, your kids could be Axie MOBA pros,
Dude.
The Axie International.
I like that a lot. Like, I don't know how it looks because, again, we're so early in Axie Infinity, and I know that sounds weird because we went over 1 billion in total volume just in the last 30 days. We have, I think I saw 1.2 million wallets that hold at least 3 Axies. We're just getting really, really awesome, but it still is super early, and I'm really excited to see what comes of Axies. We have these cute Axies down here in the bottom of your stream here, bouncing around. But we've seen releases that show Axies actually with like legs and arms and holding gear. So we're not even to the final form, I don't think, of these Axies yet. And when you think in terms of kind of your standard MOBA that's going to have gear and different things like that. If we see an evolution that sees these be, have arms and legs and different things.
Yeah, it does make you wonder what the kind of lore limits look like around the kind of land gameplay and stuff. I've very recently come to like understand the level at which Axie artwork is truly amazing. And the value of that, like, super original. I mean, I guess they're based off of Xlotls or however you say it. There's those little cute little real life animals, but so they're
axolotls,
axolotls, whatever.
Right?
They're like, there's inspiration, but I mean, everything comes from somewhere. But there's been a number of these. I'm not going to do them the grace of naming them, but these very clear copy paste like Axie clones, where it's other little pocket monster type things that look just eerily similar. But when you look at them, they do look like cheap knockoffs, and maybe I've just stared at my Axies for too long. Maybe just the amount of money I spent on my Mystic, I look at that thing and it's brainwashed me into thinking it's that unique. But it's like it feels like crappy knockoff, just not nearly as good. It's like, hey, my Louis Vuitton bag and the knockoff one, they kind of pass the quick gut check, but then when you open it and look and use it, you can tell it feels different. It's really not the same. It's cheaper, but it's not better by any metric.
Absolutely. Yeah, there is a big difference in quality for sure. And, it just was from the very, very start with Masamune. The art is just phenomenal. I love how it's evolving too. It's evolving into something even more and more awesome. I love seeing the version 2, the Axie Origin battle scenes and stuff like that. To me, it's just taking the art and kicking it up a notch every time we see a release, and I think it's just incredible. God, I was gonna say something. Oh, I have something I need to share with you. Actually,
sure.
I don't think it can be found any longer, but it is some of Masamune's original artwork, and I don't think I'm supposed to send it. I think I found it publicly, but I don't think it's supposed to be sent out. So I'll send it to you though, and at least you can see it. It's
totally.
Pretty cool.
No, I love
kind of. Yeah, it's kind of the initial. I think it's the actual initial drawing work that Masamune.
That's going to be $1 billion NFT one day, bro.
Yeah, I think it was actually listed. I'm not going to say tons about it, but I think it was actually listed as an NFT somewhere, and that's where I was able to see it. I think it might have got pulled down.
Okay.
I think that he changed his mind. Maybe.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
No, fair enough.
Yep.
I've had that. I mean, we saw just recently Gabby, shout out, trying to get the. I always is it Amago? Is that Amalgo? I always forget what the prefix is.
Yeah, it's Agamo.
Agamo, that's it. Agamo Genesis. I got to say it like 5 times fast. Agamo Genesis. Trying to buy back the sharded. However, talking to Cloud White about sharding stuff, I'm kind of like, it sounds terrible. You lose the utility of the thing, and then people can like just play this Stonewall. No. You have more money than that game, and I don't really feel bad for Gabby, but I feel a little bad for Gabby. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally get it. I actually started sharding one of my Genesis plots. I had to do it manually, and I actually minted an ERC20 token to do it. And provided liquidity for a little bit. Ended up pulling all the liquidity and buying back all the shares of that token so that I just reclaimed that Genesis. But yeah, I got too, like you were saying, I got too anxiety. I had too much anxiety about it. It was, I think it would have been awesome, and I look forward to the future of those things. But I started feeling like the guild system, especially recently, as it's been discussed, is probably going to handle what I had in mind probably reasonably well. I guess we'll find out. Yeah.
There is something I didn't really think about, the utility part of if you can shard it and still use it and somehow share the yield kind of. That's different from just it being sharded and then only the shards exist. It's a little too I guess it exists in a similar way. I was just having this conversation with one of my crypto friends about like multi-sig wallets, and we need another layer of security for these really valuable crypto assets that historically people would say, oh, you have $1 million in Bitcoin? We'll just put it in cold storage, dude. It's super safe. It's super secure. You're good.
Right.
But let's say you have $1 million in Axies. You can't really say that because you want to use them, generally speaking, especially once land is out. I've got whatever. I mean, look at what Cloud White just listed. So that's like at a level where I would say maybe multi-sig access makes sense, or some sort of multi-sig, whatever. You want to start thinking about those next level security precautions. But when you dive into it, a lot of those are really designed just for storage, not for like, hey, I need to use this wallet every single day to like do stuff, you know, like
Oh, absolutely.
my AXS isn't in cold storage. It's it's on a hardware wallet, but it's like I'm gonna need that. I need it in my like public address because it's not just money. It's like my votes, and it's like I need it for breeding. Like I can't just say I'm gonna throw it in the locker like the Bitcoin gold forever, because that's not the reason I bought it. That's not the reason I want it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's the different plays, right? There's trying to get liquidity out of an asset that's basically illiquid, and that's a really good reason to shard an asset if you think that you can access some liquidity that way, if it makes sense. I mean, as it's turned out, that was an interesting time. Like, I haven't been through everything. I love that chalice, by the way. That's freaking
I
awesome.
saw it in we got this like years ago, and I've never used it, and I saw it today, and it was just perfect. So I'm just drinking water out of it, but I feel really epic. Glad you noticed.
It looks really epic. It shouldn't just be water, but it's okay that it is. It's been a crazy ride. I mean, there have been so many different things that have happened within the blockchain, the NFT space. And it just makes me realize, like, we're probably only at the very beginning. Like, you talk about multi-sig wallets. Once that gets deployed on Ronin, then it's going to add a whole level of security that is going to be really, really good. I mean, you're going to have a lot more willingness to have multiple people involved with owning highly, highly valuable assets, because there's going to be a better way of handling the ownership and security. But then, you may have to add, maybe the guild system handles it once it comes out, once those things happen. But you're going to have to add either a portion of the smart contract that allows you to delegate like management and control, what the asset actually is used for, so that there's a person or multiple people or something that actually can, use that for the benefit of the holders, so that it can actually, it's kind of like a trustee in a way.
No, totally. I mean, that's like, I did that with a group of, I think there's 6 of us, and that was that little forest estate that we bought, the 2 node touching plots that we bought individually and connected them together to make an estate. That was a steal, by the way. 2 nodes next to each other, touching, or two plots touching node. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad I was able to talk my friends into it. But that's, 6 of us splitting 20 ETH investment or something. And we're able to do it because I know most of them in real life, and one of them has been a long time, subscriber, follower, whatever. And I'm able to leverage kind of like, they trust me to hold it. I wouldn't trust it the other way, but if I'm the one that gets to hold the asset, okay, I'm in. Let's do this thing, So
makes it easier.
I'm in like a unique situation, but I understand the need for that, because right now it is really scary out there, and there is a whole, as like land is so scarce, as those prices continue to go up, as more people get in, there's going to be a higher demand for it. Won't be like, ooh, do I go forest or savanna? It'll be, hey, buddy, do you want to go in on a savanna with me, and we'll split it 50-50, right? Yeah. So.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That's coming. There's no question. It's just there's so many different aspects to land, and I could talk about land, but one of the things just to keep in mind is that it's not just scarcity, but the scarcity alone of the land assets makes it so that they're so incredibly valuable. There's only going to be about 69,000 land plots that can just be owned at all. Once all of the land is released, we know that land is highly likely to not be released. Additional land is highly likely not to be released until after gameplay has been out for quite some time. My kind of conservative estimate there is that it probably will be 12 months. I don't know. It could be a little bit less than that, just kind of depending on how long it takes for everything to sort out. But I don't expect that the initial release of land play is going to be everything, in the sense of we probably are going to need to have a few different updates over time before we get to a place where we really know how land play is going to work out as far as, revenue return is one point, but actual gameplay, like drops, rare assets, chimera, node battles, all the different things that are anticipated to come there. It's going to take some time for all of that to be sorted out. I'm super patient with these things, and I know that can be hard, and maybe it even frustrates people, like how patient I am with these Axie assets. But I really, really impatient. Like, people are freaked out about SLP. Guys, it's at 17 and a half. I saw it below a penny. I mean, I've seen SLP at all sorts of different price points. And so, you know, the team has just announced some amazing changes to, I think, to how it's going to affect the SLP that's produced. Totally. And it's going to take a few weeks for those things to come into effect. So we've got to be patient. We got to wait maybe a month before we even know what's going to happen.
There's like degrees of patience, you know, it's all relative, but you're absolutely right with these things. Like the worst thing you can do.
Begging for a month, Zyori.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like the worst thing you can do for economies is react too quickly before you can assess the impact of the last change, because then you start losing like efficacy of the data that you're tracking, and then you're just flying blind. Then you're just kind of throwing darts and twisting knobs and hoping shit's coming out the other end. That's when it gets really scary. It's a big beast. It's a big ship. And it has, I don't want to say it has a small rudder. It has a delicate rudder, and little changes can have big shifts in the trajectory long term.
I would even argue that there's a strong rudder.
Yeah, it's fair. There's a nuanced rudder.
To be wise enough to only make little teeny tiny moves with that rudder.
Yes, that's a better. All right, yeah, that's actually a much better framing. But no, totally, that patience is there. And with that hyper growth, we definitely have an abundance of mercenaries right now. And I mean, we can see it on Twitter. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you and I saw it in a private chat with, you know, a Mystic Axie holder who I think a lot of people in that shared room were surprised that somebody with that level of investment was so shaken by what most of us, when you have that level of investment, are like, dude, aren't you long on this? I mean, what is a month in the context of years on this roadmap? I think that's how a lot of us view it. I think that's how most people with land view it, maybe I would say.
Sure. And probably you would expect any of the rarer Axie assets, the Axies themselves, Mystics, Origins, so forth.
Right.
Because, you know, it's a really weird thing that I've noticed. Like, there are a lot of people that wish that they could get into some of these assets cheaper. But that's not really what they want. They want that they could just get a steal. They want the assets to remain high value and grow. So the truth is, we don't really want those assets reducing in value. Nobody actually does. It's just that the price point is higher, and that makes it less accessible. But that makes it more valuable. And again, like, it's just going to take time for these things to happen. I guess, again, I just beg everybody to just be patient. You know, just because things are slow moving, that's actually exactly the opposite of what you see in the other NFT space. Like, almost every NFT project is all about rushing something out, trying to create a lot of hype, trying to get people behind it, and then whoever got in the earliest and can hurry and flip those things around, they're the ones that those are the ones that gain on those projects. And Axie, to me, is completely the opposite. If you acquire assets and you're patient and you contribute and you're part of seeing this whole thing go, being one of the oar rowers on the boat, that's the best thing you can do. And in the end, it's going to be awesome, because, again, I think this whole conversation kind of started with, like, we're just barely starting out on some of these projects. It's just barely getting going. I never know with Jiho when he says something sooner than you think. I don't know who he's talking about,
I gotta
person
look.
He's referring to, because, you know, one of the things he said in a few interviews recently was, like, staking was coming sooner than you think. And I guess I don't know what context to put that in. It sounds to me, at least, that we're on track for having it be within the roadmap, right, which is this quarter. Which would be incredible.
I think that is, if I understand properly, it sounds to me like things are pretty on track. I feel pretty safe saying that out loud. You know, things can change, but as of right now, things are moving pretty well. The team's been working overtime to try to keep us on track, but I can definitely say, like, I have kind of a unique perspective because while I am obviously part of the Sky Mavis team, I'm not really part of the development team. I'm part of the international business growth team, and I'm within that team pretty siloed into my little esports and creators bubble since I'm the sole member of said team. But it seems
You mean you're the leader then?
The leader, yes. The leader without followers. But the team, from what I've gathered, really puts a lot of effort into the caring about the roadmap, and that roadmap was not made haphazardly. Obviously, things change, and you can't predict stuff. And when you're talking about years in the future, things do move around. But they try to update it to the best of their ability and generally live up to it wherever possible. So,
oh yeah,
all things equal, I would default to have some confidence in the roadmap. It's not just a total outline. It's not just I get why you guys think it might be, because that's how a lot of people do use roadmaps, right? It's sort of it's pirate code. It's kind of just some guidelines. It's not really a code per se.
I love it.
Rules you pick and choose to follow at your convenience. So no, I think we adhere a little bit. And one of our general mottos, like an ethos that we had it Beyond the Summit, and that I was excited to see carried over here, even from my last company at Moonduck, under promise, over deliver. That's basically the goal. And the
100%.
the inversion of that, of course, is always try to avoid over promising and under delivering. At worst, we hit somewhere in the middle. But yeah, so all things equal, that's what we strive for. Keep that in the back of your minds there.
So I heard two things from what you just said, Zyori. One is you're reluctant to say the exact same words that Jiho said, like sooner than you might think. Although I would love to I almost want a clip of you saying that, just so that I could have every team member saying that. That would be wonderful.
Sooner than you may think. Is that the line?
Thank you. Perfect. And then the other is, it sounds like you know when staking is happening, which gets me excited. That's cool.
There's some ideas. I never really know exactly, but I have ideas. I have guidelines. I mean, you may or may not have noticed that some of the dates on the esports proposals, like we had originally said the window for events to start would be August 12th. And the announcement dropped today. So things move a little differently than you project. Again, it's like I planned my projection for 10 events. So like, okay, greenlighting 10 events is pretty easy. I did not really budget that original timeline for reading 150 legitimate proposals. That's like it took me a little longer than I thought I would. So missed the mark on that one slightly.
I mean, you're doing something that has never been done before with a game that is doing things that has never been done before. For me, it's just a good time to have some patience, let things work themselves out. Let's not steer that rudder too much and cause, the ship to capsize or something. I don't even think that that's really within the realm of possibility the way things are right now, like anything significantly bad. But, you're going to deliver on esports. The team's going to deliver on land. We're going to get, I'm fully confident in all these things. So for me, it's just, what I've figured out is, and if anybody's listening, like, I think these maybe even be somewhat powerful words. And that is, look for the situation that you're in right now to find the advantage that you can find right now. That might mean that it's going to take a while for anything like that to happen. It means you might have to be playing a longer game. Some things I look at, like I pay pretty close attention to all of the markets with all of the Axie digital assets. Like I am kind of watching them all like a hawk. And, we saw the Axie floor here recently, just in the last couple of days, drop quite a bit. And now all of a sudden it's recovered quite a bit. And I don't know what to think about that. There is a morphing issue right now. And I don't know if that's just that people can't put eggs on the market, and so that's not pushing the floor down. But I guess if you're feeling like you want things to happen, or you're not seeing how you can capitalize on the potential profit that can be there in Axie, I guess I say to you, well, are you paying close enough attention? Are you really researching all of the materials? Do you have your thumb on the market all the time? Are you really watching the charts? Are you really paying that close of attention? Because no one's gonna like spoon feed you this stuff.
Yeah.
We
No, it's
even on the
hard.
exclusive side of Axie Chat, we can only give ideas. You have to do it. You have to figure that out on your own. And it's weird because in this space, you have, I think, more and more institutional investors that are getting involved in Axie Infinity, all the way to people who are just looking for a scholarship team, right? So it's an amazingly broad space with a whole different level of interest at whole different, come froms. And that's so cool, right? Because in my view, that is the sign of a digital nation. That's the sign of something that's healthy and can continue because we have interest from every economic level.
Yeah, no, totally. And I had an illuminating experience this week that really amplified exactly what you're saying. Sometimes I guess it's sort of a self-learning thing where I've been trying to encourage people to, partially from a place of confidence, that it's a skill game, meaning that if you're stuck at 800 MMR, there's a good chance there's probably something you could tweak in your gameplay or your positioning within the crappy framework that you have, even with your terrible assets, your dumpy Axies that your manager gave you. You're probably still not playing it perfect. If you gave Elijah those same Axies, he could probably be higher than 800 MMR. And I say that to try to help ideally build people up. Like, don't be discouraged, man. And like, I was the same way. After I did a few coaching sessions, I went up hundreds of MMR with the same Axies, just realizing that I was misplaying the things that I had. I had 4 Aquas and I was using 2 of the wrong ones. And I was DMing one of these guys, and he sent me his Axies, and I linked in my coaching session with Indez. Oh, we got a raid. Thank you so much. It's like, that's like an hour plus video, and it's like, that's one of my best Axie videos. It has so much positive feedback of like, Indez is a god. You can see so much. I learned so much from him. Like, this is the most valuable coaching I've ever watched. And then a lot of people flaming me for being terrible. And 10 minutes later, the guy responds on Twitter, "Yeah, I didn't learn anything." And I was just kind of like, all right, well, not only am I done with this conversation, like, I don't even know how to empathize with that frame of mind. And now I'm not surprised that you think Axie isn't a skill game. And one of the other things that echoes this even more is when people say to me, "Oh, dude, you got to nerf pures because I don't have any pures and I keep getting beat by 6 out of 6 pure Axies." I'm like, but 6 out of 6 pure Axies aren't that good. And then on the same day, I got a tweet from somebody saying the opposite of like, dude, you got to buff pure Axies. They're so crappy because I keep getting beat by these mixed ones, but I have to buy pure ones to breed. And now my pure ones are useless and I can't win in arenas. And it's just hysterical to me that both sides of it will use that as evidence that it's like not a skill game, but that system illustrates so deeply that it's a skill game. I can't even I just want to shake that knowledge into people. So I get so frustrated, Baronar. I'm freaking out. I'm sorry.
Dude, no, the same thing said maybe just a slightly different way. And that is, I cannot stand it when people want, particularly the team or markets or whatever, to take positions that benefit them specifically and their specific placement in the market. And that includes like the game, right? So they want their particular Axies to be buffed so they get some advantage. That is never going to be good for a long-term strategy for something that's real, sustainable. You need to go with something that's good overall for the broadest amount of the community and not just something that you want to have happen for you. And a lot of times, like when I hear people talking about SLP and the price of SLP, it's almost always because they're holding SLP or they have they want to sell their SLP or they have a very particular interest with that. And to me, that's the worst possible reason to make a change. The worst possible reason is just to price fix or something like that. It's got to be about like, well, what are the economic realities? What are the economic policies that we want to affect by anything that we're making decisions on it? And that's the same with the game. What are the strategic advantages? What are the strategic positionings? What do we want to do to make sure that, class on class or pure Axies, get certain advantages, but that they're not so strong that they win every single little thing, so it's not a competitive game. I mean, I could point out a couple things in the game that are frustrating to me that I think are more high-level strategic issues that that I've seen. You know, I don't know. I'd be parroting other people too. I think that bird crits and aqua crits are kind of weird. I don't even understand why they qualify for those, because they're fast and they hit hard anyway. Taking a beast is a big risk, and it feels like they don't maybe even crit as much. I run a confident beast, right? So half the time I've got a double confident morale booster, and I swear I don't know. It's weird. It doesn't feel like it gets a whole lot more crits than without that morale boost. But again, I don't know the full ins and outs of everything behind the scenes.
I think you're not wrong.
I don't know. It seems like if you take a beast, the whole point is you're hoping for those big smacks, right? That's why you take it. If you take an aqua, it's because you want to do consistent damage quickly. And then, there's lots of different things like that. Those are the conversations I like to see people like Elijah and Indus and Z having, and maybe challenging the team to make some.
I think we're due for some adjustments like that. I think I have to be really careful what I say here, so I'm going to err on the side of saying less. But I'm in a somewhat unique position as someone who's like, I'm sort of a middle ground where I have less of a vested interest than somebody like you guys who are like top arena players or whatever, Indez and Elijah. Subconsciously, at the very least, will have some lens of some sort, right? All of us do. And on the developer side, like, I didn't make the game, so I'm not attached to it. I have you're not going to hurt my feelings if you say, "Hey, this card sucks. Whoever designed this card is an idiot." Okay, that doesn't hurt my feelings. I didn't design it. I wasn't there. So I feel like I've been able to observe some interesting data collection talking to some of the top players, and there are some commonalities, and I think you've definitely brought up some good points, and there are some, maybe as Indez would say, some small changes that would go a really, really long way. I think there's also some potential stuff with card order. I've heard some talks about card orders a little bit too predictable, and we need to do something about that cliff of when, I guess it's really decks resetting. There's like, once you know the deck is going to reset, there are some really weird RNG things that can happen where you can play like kind of the same card 4 times in a row because the RNG resets, and it needs to be like distributed, or like little tiny things like that you can understand why they weren't there from an initial game design perspective. But now that we have hundreds of thousands of hours of arenas played, and now hundreds of thousands, at this point soon to be millions of dollars on the line for esports, it's kind of worth like going through that really fine-tooth comb of maybe we do need to just reevaluate crits and make that unique to beasts. Maybe that's just a step in the right direction. Maybe we still need to tweak crits further, but that's at least step down the rabbit hole. I'm with you on opening that door.
I think a big difficulty is Axie battles, because how much time do you really want to invest in the current battle system? I mean, Axie Origin, I think I said that wrong. When you have a new version of the game coming pretty soon, and is it going to replace the existing version? I think some of those things are difficult for, they've got to be difficult for the team, but for the outside observer, it may be even more challenging, because, if you love the current system of battles, you're hoping that you see these kind of iterations and modifications that improve the game. Mm-hmm. If you're hoping for Axie Origin because battles maybe isn't your thing. I play tons of games, man. Board games, everything, card games, TCGs, all sorts of crap. Like, I even played the super old TCG called On the Edge. If you ever want to look up an old bizarre RPG game, it was called Over the Edge, and they made a trading card game called On the Edge, and I played that. I mean, I've played tons of things like that. So I like different types of gaming systems. One of my favorite board games, card games, is Dominion, because it's so customizable.
Yeah,
and it's all about
I've played that
building.
Actually. That's actually a surprisingly fun game. That was one of those games where someone explained it to me, and I said, that game doesn't sound that fun. They said, try it. If you like poker, you might like this. It cycles pretty fast. So it's like rapid deck building. And That was the part that I missed, and that's what makes it so fun, because if you mess it up or don't do it right, it's I mean, I get that vibe with Axie a little bit, where people say to me sometimes, man, how come you never get mad when you like get crit or throw in a game? I'm like, because it takes 5 minutes. I come from the Dota space where sometimes you have to suffer for an hour with the most miserable human beings in the world. And even if you know you're going to lose 100%, you still there's no concede. You still just have to wait for the other team to end, you know? That's not really a thing in Axie. Worst case, I just wasted 10 minutes of my own time. I could win 2 more arenas and we're good. Right back where we were. So it's all framing. I get if I have scars from that background. So
dude, no, for real. Anytime you get into a MOBA and you know that you're going to be investing, maybe even depending on how it goes, an hour. I mean, it can be long. Like, and you're with a bunch of just toxic people, and you're just trying to do your best. But if you just exit, if you care about your rank and you're trying to do some of that, like you can't just drop out, because there's going to be consequences for doing that too. So yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I saw somebody on Twitter today tweet at Elijah and say, yeah, how's that Axie's a skill game thing going? You're down to rank 99 on the ladder with your floor Axies. It's like, dude,
oh my gosh.
He went from rank 20 to 99. He probably didn't play for a day because he was making a video. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Dude, for real.
That kind of stuff is like, it's either bad faith. If it's not bad faith, it's like, dude, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. And obviously it's like not worth the mental anguish to engage with that, but it's infuriating that somebody tweets that tough. Thinking it's like, that's an actual gotcha. Oh, Elijah, you're barely even top 100 anymore. Like, dude, you know how competitive the top 100 is?
You know how hard? Yeah.
It's so hard to stay. You got to
be in the top 1,000 right now?
Yeah, like you got to just be playing constantly to maintain like a top 20 rank. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, it's very, very hard. I have some teams where I fairly consistently win. I'm stupid competitive. So like, unless I'm winning, 2 out of 3 games, it's pretty tough for me to continue going on. I know that sounds so terrible.
That's I like that threshold. I haven't had enough time to sit down. I'm looking forward to actually playing some more Arena this week, because the esports stuff was like, I got to get this out. It's like delayed deployment. And now that it's out, I feel like I can breathe a little bit. And now a lot of things are moving simultaneously, and like the next stage has been unlocked. So I'm looking for. Hopefully, I'll push a few hundred closer to the 2K mark this week. That would be a good feeling by this Tuesday next week.
Hit 2K. Yeah, I kind of maxed out recently around the upper 1600s, and then just moved back down into the 1500s. It's interesting, and it kind of goes to the point you made earlier. You can have a team, like I could give you a team of, a perfect plant, a great beast, or a aqua, whatever, and then just, this fast dusk terminator or reptile terminator or whatever. And I guarantee you that you could play Indus or Elijah or Z or Nate or other Prathap or other people with what you would say is a far less superior team, and you're going to get rocked. I'm sorry, but you're going to get rocked, because they understand the intricacies of how these cards play out. And, like I said, I've played tons and tons of games. I feel a little bit sheepish admitting this, but, I've to win Axie Infinity, you have got to know energy all of the time, and you have got to know how much your cards are going to do to each of the different types of cards based on the way they're made up. And if you haven't memorized all of that stuff and you haven't figured all that out, then don't come to me and tell me about this not being a game of skill. Bullshit.
Yeah, isn't that a good like pop quiz question? Right, which classes do extra damage to which classes again? Could you just tell me that real quick without Googling? Oh, no, you can't? Okay, well then your argument that it's not a skill game has been diminished by X amount already. You want to go again? You want to play for another?
Exactly. So, yeah, is there some luck component? Yeah, there is. And that's hard on me because, I've come from more of a kind of a
well, it's not binary.
is,
I'm not making the case it's 100% skill. Yeah. It's like I want to make the case that it's more skill than luck, and it's more skill than just do I have the best meta Axies. I think that the meta's more of an illusion than people realize.
Yeah. How can the same people be on the leaderboard time after time after time if it's truly just a luck game? That's bullcrap. I don't believe it for a second.
Well, they would say it's because they have the most. Well, Indez has like 1,000 Axies. I don't know if he has that many, but that's what people say.
He has access probably to whatever type of Axie he wants, possibly.
I'm sure.
But regardless...
But he told me that he's gotten first place, or he's placed top 10 in multiple seasons by just playing the exact same Axie comp. And he told me that one of the only reasons he switches it up is to keep it interesting. But if you challenged him, he could place top... If you said, all right, Indez, you get these 3 Axies, you can pick any 3, I bet you he could get top 10 guaranteed with that set of 3 Axies throughout the entire season. Just like, you queue up the ladder, you know that there's hard counters out there across multiple seasons. It's not just volume of Axies. That has very quick diminishing returns. But in tournaments, it's a little different. But on online ladder, you don't know what you're matched up against. So it doesn't really matter. You can't, it does a little at the very, very top. But you know what I mean.
No, absolutely. I mean, and Jameski here in the chat makes a good point. Poker is a highly strategic, highly, calculated game, but it has a huge luck component. What cards you actually draw out of the deck is a huge, huge part of the component. Like, I have matched up in many games where I absolutely, the Axies I have and the combos and so forth that I have absolutely outclass my opponent. Just absolutely. And then I draw the absolute worst possible, first card draw. And by the time I've waited long enough to be able to counterplay, I've lost my tank. And at that point, it's just unlikely that I'm going to be able to have success. It happens, but not... See, my problem is if I'm not winning 2 out of 3 games, then for me, I have other things to do.
Fair.
And but that doesn't mean it's not an awesome game. And if I didn't keep playing, I couldn't find a way to get, just that above 50% ratio that would let me climb in the MMR and go through it. For me, it's about time. And, I like the game. I like it enough to play regularly and find it to be a very enjoyable game. What I absolutely love is when people get passionate about something. And so these guys that are into the esports and just pushing and trying to figure out the best card combinations, the best group to take, and then to counter each other and play that mind game in the tournament setting, that's what I love. I'm not there, and I'm going to just admit it to myself. I like playing it. But I actually enjoy watching those guys really go at it and be passionate about it. I'll keep talking about economy and land and
right. Well, you got to play to your strengths.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and as you've illustrated, a good matchmaking system that has, like MMR rating or ELO, whatever system you want to use, and has a lot of players, it's good if the more you play, the closer you get to a 50% win rate. That means that you're getting closer to your proper skill level relative to everyone else on that system. So when you start, you probably will win at least 2-1 or 3-1, maybe even 4-1, right? When things drop and you're a little, getting calibrated or whatever. But eventually to push that top grind, I mean, it becomes a matter of volume. It's sort of a matter of hours, You don't maintain that 75% win rate when you're that high. It's So
my biggest
that's the system
issue,
working though, is what I'm getting at, I suppose.
Is misplay, and I see it with myself. Like,
same. I see it retroactively. That's the problem.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Retroactively, and then I get mad at myself and I just turn it off. I probably shouldn't, but sometimes I don't. I need to have coaching to see why I made the choice that I made. Like, I've matched up with Indus a few times in the seasons over the years, and I think I did beat him maybe one time, right? But there were a couple times where I had him on the freaking ropes, like I just picked the wrong play order of my cards, and he doesn't pick the wrong play order of his cards, and so I ended up losing when I should have won. So.
Yep, been there, done that one on stream. Even just last week before I interviewed AK, the very last match I played, I lost because of card order. I screwed it up. I would have had my serious hit, then he wouldn't have had enough energy.
Yep.
I would have lived in the last round of the head-to-head, and I would have won. And it literally, the second before AK picked up the call, he said, "Oof, that card play," in all caps. And I was just like, I know. Thanks.
But that's awesome, right? To me, that's awesome. That's a sign that it strategy matters a ton.
Yeah.
And your capacity for, knowing your cards and knowing the play and knowing your opponent's cards, that's a sign of a very strategic.
You want it to be a game of inches sometimes. Game. I mean, that's happened when you see Dota at the highest level, like the international, where it's like life-changing money. It is like the meta of the meta. Everybody is all in, playing to the max. You see these moments where it's like, oh my, that was crazy close. Like inches is even just, that was like millimeters. I mean, it's sometimes.
When you lose with one tick of last stand, your opponent, or one hit point,
So, but that's good. I think you're right. That's like a commonality you see in other esports that are regarded as highly competitive. So that's.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's cool when you see in the MOBAs that someone barely survived with, one hit point, and at least I like that. So, I mean, there was a tournament that I can't remember how it went, but basically it was just like, they've all been so close, but just astonishing, and how even like the eyes and ears can come into huge, components here for this game too.
We still have
even though they're
ways to go. Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, even right now, having the right eyes and ears on certain Axies is a game changer sometimes.
I like that we have I feel like there's little Easter eggs, like with Nutcracker, right? You can get the triple Nutcracker Axie. Right now, the triple Nutcracker doesn't do anything. I feel like you're nuts if you think that triple Nutcracker won't be somehow better than double Nutcracker at some point in the future in some context. Yeah. Is it specifically for battling? I don't know. Do I know anything? Not really, but it makes sense, right? Like one of the first Aquas I bred, I got a double Nemo, and only one of the Nemos does something, right? The tail's cool. The side flippers are just there for cosmetics, but I had a double anemone, double Nemo, and that was when it clicked in my head, like, I think I'm gonna put you in the save bag. There's something about you. And then I started looking for Nutcrackers, and when I saw them, I was like, maybe it's the collector in me, but I think I'm buying only triple Nutcrackers. I'm gonna hedge my bets, like even if it's a little bit more now, and maybe that's stupid, and maybe I'm just glorified gambling, but that's where my brain goes with this stuff. Like I feel like when in doubt, there's logic to it. It's not just random, right? Oh, did I lose him? Well, at least he's got a nice smile in the freeze frame. Or is it my internet? Oh, no.
In general, not necessarily Axie, I guess, in particular, but I'm sure that there's going to be higher and higher levels of scrutiny, and I just hope that we see a lot of support. I think it does such good for so many people, and really has just a huge economic benefit. It's not like with Axie Infinity that there's really, other than the stupid freaking scammers, and I just absolutely hate how much that happens. People have got to be wise. Like the scammers could literally get nothing. Hackers is a different thing, right? Who find ways to hop onto your computer and try to steal your crap. That sucks, and that's even worse.
People are being phished. It's like social engineering. It's scam. It's scamming is the right word. They're not being hacked. Hacking implies like a more of a technical security breach, and that has not happened. I don't think. To my knowledge, it's all been just phishing, people pretending to be support, fake websites that look like the Axie website, but, are just a copy paste with a fake address, that kind of thing.
With just good policies, like we as community members can stop that from happening. If you just as yourself, as your individual, if you sit and think, hey, this has to be too good to be true. Why is Zyori messaging me out of the blue? Why is Jiho or Alex messaging me out of the blue?
We don't do that.
This can't be. It's not going to happen. So
it's just like when you hear Valve employees say Valve employees will never ask for your password. Sky Mavis employees will never ask for your secret recovery phrase or your seed phrase. We don't want it. We have no need for it. The only reason somebody's going to ask for that is to steal your shit. So that should be the lens you apply. If someone's asking, like, I mean, unless it's like your dad or like, you know, if it's a stranger, no go, dude. That's like sharing your PIN code for your debit card with a stranger. Yeah. You just don't. Yep. You keep that shit to yourself.
100%. And let's not let them win. Like, be smart. Don't give them stuff.
For a vote of confidence here, we part of programmatically pull, he's been working the support desk, but part of his job is like proactive stuff, and we're adding more and more services for domain takedown. We just got, I don't want to say the number, but a large amount of domains taken down that were verified to have like copied assets and this kind of stuff. It programmatically, you can run searches and find that thing. And there are security firms that specialize in this kind of stuff. You know, there are contractors out there that can do these kinds of things and help take down some of those more obvious scams. You know, finally, we've gotten in touch with the Google Play Store. Now those are getting taken down more quickly. That one that was up forever that had like 150 reviews and all that stuff, that one finally got taken down. So it's an arms race, but we are we're suiting up. You know, we're slowly getting better artillery and we're getting more proactive. So it's slow and steady. It is really sad, and it pains me to see the amount of people that fall victim. But it really is. You got to take it's a new world. You know, that's like part of the shift of this whole thing is taking the responsibility for ourselves. And traditional banking has primed all of us to rely on the customer support element, the expensive human front end that has a huge human element and capital to it of, hey, I sent the wrong transaction. Can you reverse it? Oh, this person stole my credit card. Can you just undo it? I mean, even with like international wires, if I screw it up and send it to the wrong bank number, generally you can call and be like, yep, I screwed it up. They charge you a penalty and you pay a little bit, but if it's a $20,000 wire, I'm happy to pay $150 to get most of it back in my bank account and go, oops, my bad. That doesn't work with blockchain, right? So we have to, it's a totally different framework, totally different mindset, and you got to respect that power. You have to wield it with responsibility. And we got to do more to educate and proactively, you know, put more barriers there to make sure people understand the gravity of that responsibility. I think that's where we need to improve, and we are working on improving. The support desk is going to be a big part of that. Stay tuned for the support desk. But fundamentally, it is, I hate to sound like a libertarian here, but there is a large part of individual education that has to take place, because like only you can secure your seed phrase, right? I can't do it for you. That there's like one part of this that you have to do yourself, and that's, I can only give you the door, I can open it, I can shove you most of the way through, but you got to let go and do that final part to walk through it.
Plus, really, really glad to have Zyori on board doing everything that you're doing, Zyori. Just so freaking cool. Love to see the team taking a stronger position and encouraging the content creation, the esports scene, all of that stuff. It's fantastic. And yeah, I look forward to maybe being on again sometime if you'll have me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there were still a few things I wanted to dive into. I'm sort of trying to tweet out that the stream's down. I don't even know if it's still being pushed right now, but I'll tack this on to the end of the podcast at least so it has an ender. Yeah, man, I seriously shout out to all the hard work at Axie Chat. Glad to see it's paid off. Thank you. Excited to watch the show tonight. And thanks. Hope everybody tunes in, looking for record-breaking numbers.
Be awesome.
Yeah, so much to look forward to. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to ask you about whoop-de-whoop and regulation and all this other stuff. So,
dude, we
can
talk about that stuff.
Yeah, and also, you know, FYI, I just wanted to throw this out there. Generally, I watch Axie Chat live, but if you guys ever wanted to do just like I I could call in for like 5 minutes and like just answer a question, or like, you know, if you guys ever get stumped or needed just a live, like, whatever, you know,
that would be awesome.
If you give me 5 or 10 minutes a heads up, even just with audio, I could call in and, you know, chit chat real quick. And I don't want to interrupt the whole show, but you know how it goes. Sometimes that might be useful.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
so,
something to keep in mind.
All right. Well, hey, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again.
See you later,
and,
man.
Just real grateful for everything you're doing for Axie, man.
Likewise.
Hey,
All right.
we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.